Hello, world. Welcome to the High Paying Bastards. We are your hosts, Ian and Ari. Here, we will discuss anything related to video game culture, so please take a seat and join us. First thing we got on the agenda, we got some WB shenanigans with some live service games. So I know I sent this over to you. The CEO on a Q3 earnings call for WB were talking about they wanted to transform their biggest franchises within the next 3 or 4 year release schedule to include more games as a service, which I don't know about you, Ari, but I think games as a service suck.
That's one way to put it, right? I mean, I think we're looking at a lot of the live services that happen over the year. You know, you've got your Avengers and stuff all kind of failing to generate any kind of audience. And I guess Warner Brothers is so adamant about sticking with that failed strategy again. But here what I'll say on that end, Ian, right? You sent me the quote that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers, sent, and it just sounds like a huge nothing but a corporate jargons.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like corporate speak is what it is. I mean, we've seen games as a service fail. One of the biggest reasons is a lot of the games as a service they're already established, right? So you got things like Apex Legends, you got your Call of Duty franchise, stuff like that. You're got to pull that audience to come to your game and play your game. Well, most of the time, it's not worth it.
And to be really honest, on this same subject, I'm more worried about it's the Warner Brothers who are doing it. Now, I don't know if you've heard about all the news from the movie industry side, like Warner Brothers have this kind of a ill reputation right now that they would take up a movie, they would kind of finish up the movie completely post-production sometimes, and then they would completely can it down and not even release it because they think it's cheaper to not pay licenses on those movies and save on taxes. So movie Batgirl that was supposed to come out, and then it got completely canned because they could save money on taxes. They did the same thing with the upcoming movie called Wile E. Coyote versus Acme that was completely put inside a bin so that they would not have to owe money on taxes. Also, they already have pretty much ill reputation and they're coming out with this live service kind of stuff. It'll be kind of interesting to see where it goes.
I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I did hear about the Batgirl thing, and I did not hear about the Wile E. Coyote.
That movie, I've heard from the news, that movie is actually really good. That movie will be fun to kind of watch. And that's the reason he's getting backlash from it, is because that's actually a good movie that he decided to, or his team decided to kind of can it rather than releasing it because they could save like $30 million on taxes or something.
Yeah, that's just crazy though. But I mean, we've seen them shut down these servers, especially for like Avengers. We've seen them shut that down just because they're not making money off of it. So what was it? There was Side Bullet or something like that just released on PlayStation. It's a battle royale side scroller type, free to play, live service, DLC crap. They already shut the servers down, and the game hasn't even been out like for a month. I'm pretty sure it's called like Side Bullet.
I did play their Multiverses. Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did play it during their beta version. So they have turned that game completely off, and they're planning on relaunching it in 2024. Now, that game was not too bad. It was like a Super Smash Brother, but with like Warner Brother characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Shaggy, Finn from Adventure Time and stuff like that. It was an okay game. Pretty enjoyed it. My biggest complaint during that play is that if I get pretty good at Shaggy this week, they would turn access to Shaggy off unless I paid it in the next week, and I cannot progress with Shaggy. So that's like one of the problems that was happening when I was playing that game. So when this game relaunches, if they keep the same kind of live service features to it,
which I'm sure they will. I mean, I'm sure they will according to what they want to do, sorry to cut you off, but like, it's just, I feel like the games as a service does such a disservice to the gamers themselves. The corporate just sees money. That's all they want to see is just money. And sure, you got shareholders that you got to appease, stock options, all that crap. They're going to make their money hand over fist, for sure.
Yeah, to be fair to them too, though, right? If your live service does become quite popular and is a hit, it brings in a huge amount of money. Like astronomical amount of money, and it brings in regular amount of money too. Like you look at your Fortnite and stuff like that. But that's like you're basically rolling a Russian roulette. You don't know if you're going to have like a really good game in your hand as a live service. it feels like it's such a weird kind of gamble to take on.
Yeah, like you said, it's a gamble. Whether or not it'll pan out for him, we'll see.
This guy makes like a huge ton of money already from acting all of those TV shows and movies and stuff like that. He gets bonus probably from saving money for Warner Brothers or something.
I'm sure he bonus next year or whatever.
Yeah, David's awesome. He's an ordinary man like all of us,
Yeah, ordinary businessman.
Ordinary businessman.
So I guess let's jump off of that. Speaking of gambling, though, we got some parents that are suing some video game companies over game addiction.
I am.
What do you think about that?
I'll say this. Sometimes a lot of these lawsuits, there are multiple sides to this kind of story. And it's pretty easy for us to take a side, say, oh man, these are again parents being angry about video games again. It's easy to say that, but if we've played mobile games, those things, there is quite something about it. It's like the way they kind of program your dopamine and serotonin to kind of be released every time they do like, the Candy Crush sweet sound comes up. I'll say this, if this lawsuit goes through, I want at least there to be some discovery about it. People actually try to do a study whether this video game addiction is actually real or not, if it's a real problematic or not. That's something to look into. But I understand it's kind of like blaming video games for violence kind of thing. But they're blaming video games for addiction. That's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking you're hitting the nail right on the head, man. Like, we're not talking about just, like you said, GTA or something like that. We're literally talking about the Candy Crush, where you got microtransactions, you got loot boxes. It's already been, loot boxes have been largely banned over in the EU because they don't want to disclose your percentage of winning.
Exactly. That's basically kind of doing like one of those, like a Vegas slot machine, right? Even in Vegas, at least you have your odds being settled by Vegas gambling commissions and stuff like that. You don't have that on loot boxes.
It is the Wild West right now with this for sure. And like you said, they're making it look almost literally like video game casinos and stuff. And, I think a lot of people are dismissing this lawsuit because they think it's largely just like you said before, like the GTA violence thing, you know what I mean? And even the article that we talk about here from Tech Dirty, it's easier than parenting. I skimmed through the article. I'm not going to say I read the whole thing, but I skimmed through it. And it seems like they're largely talking about getting hooked, kids get their parents to buy them V-Bucks and all that and then using that crap to gamble for skins on a game that, that they might not play again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
this video game addiction is not a problem until your niece spends all of her weekly allowances on a bunch of Roblox. And then you start to wonder, why do you have such a high credit card debt? Because she's been sneaking off and trying to buy Roblox.
Yep.
That's when the problem starts. Because like this kids, it's so easy. You just press a button and then you purchase some stupid skin, like you said. And it's a real concern. Blaming video game for violence is not the same as blaming video game for addiction.
Yeah, I think we all know too that like gambling addiction, it can be a very serious thing. I mean, people go into debt, they lose literally everything, you know what I mean? And to think that like you could wind up in a situation where you fucking lose everything you have because your kid spent all their money on Robux blocks or fucking loot boxes on Apex Legends, you know what I mean? Like the thought of that is just absurd, but it is true. It can happen.
And I would drop my kid off to some child services if they did that. Like, imagine you lose your mortgage. Like, you can't even, like, your credit score is so little, you can't apply for a business loan because your kid just absolutely...
bought all the Roblox.
Exactly, bought all the, like, there's no, like, real world compared. Like, how do you take it to, like, a goldsmith or pawn shop to get it back?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, hopefully, I think there is some, scientific evidence, stuff that they've looked into, the video game addiction and the gambling and stuff like that, especially because it's been banned in the EU, but they definitely need to crack down on it a little bit more stateside as well, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we all love video game, but we don't want it to destroy people's lives. That should be a little bit more understood or researched. And I think this lawsuit or something like this can at least like provide some discovery on how these games are being designed and how they're being, advertised to children.
Yeah.
And then even if our knee-jerk reaction is to kind of be like, parents are being a little bit kind of selfish on this end, but we have to kind of let this lawsuit, like at least hopefully it gets a chance to have some discovery or something like that to go through and see where we are at. Because we don't really have a lot of studies. We only have anecdotes on this kind of video game addiction. So like it'd be a pretty good thing in my opinion.
Yeah, it's still relatively new, but something that can definitely open people's eyes up and see what's actually going on with this crap wouldn't be a bad thing at all, I don't think. All right, so I think we're actually wrapping up on the parent suing thing. But moving on to another interesting thing, GTA 6 publishers suggest games should be paid for per hour played. Now, this was the original statement that he had made, basically saying that, video games should be paid per hour. He then, since, I believe, in my opinion, from the backlash that he got from this statement, walked it back and kind of thought about what he was saying and kind of reset it, basically saying that the price per entertainment that you get with video games is the best out there, which is undeniably true. I mean, price per entertainment, video games, the value is way above, in my opinion, any other forms of entertainment that's out there.
Yeah, I thought like his statements are pretty reasonable because the weird thing about this kind of subscription or per hour played kind of thing, when I was looking back at the code, it sounded like that was the question that was asked to him by the Goldman Sachs investment analyst during the earnings call, was saying, have you guys thought about doing some subscription-based kind of, player, those kind of stuff? And then I think, Zelnick, who's the CEO for Take-Two, the publisher, yeah. I think he came out and gave a pretty reasonable answer saying, one of the things he said is, listen, like, per hour basis, video games offer so much more. You go watch a Barbie movie for like 2 or 3 hours and you pay like $15, $5 per hour deal. While if you buy a GTA 6, play for like 60 to 70 hours, you pay $60 to $70. That's like $1 per hour of entertainment. And I think one of the things he said pretty interestingly was also that, listen, it's not like the industry themselves have the power to set the price. Now, I don't know how true that is all the time, but it's basically saying the video game market is quite saturated depending upon how many developers there are and how many independent to big studios there are. Like if they try to put a certain kind of pricing power because they have the biggest game or something like that, it's not going to be as useful or it's not going to work out the way they might want to. So
yeah, I mean, when you start talking about the whole price played per hour, I feel like it's a slippery slope, right?
It is.
It's not that long ago we were talking about horse armor with Oblivion, and look at where we're at now with DLC and stuff, right? But I think it's a bad business model if we go down that road. I think already with DLC, microtransactions and stuff that we're facing right now with video games is a detriment to our entertainment as is. When you start talking about this price per hour, I mean, we're talking about what? You're going to clock in when you start playing GTA 6, and then after, you play for 3 or 4 hours, you gotta pony up $30 to your credit card every time, every 3-4 hours, $10 an hour or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just a slippery slope to start talking about this.
To be fair to this guy, though, whenever these investment analysts, like these people, like investment analysts, private equity analysts, investment bankers, usually these are like people who know just enough about an industry that they can ask a question, but they don't know if they're asking like a good question or a bad question or
the right question. They're just trying to invoke a conversation or something.
Exactly. So that they sound a little bit smarter. It's like that complex where like your confidence in a subject goes up as you gain more knowledge, and then it peaks early on. And then later when you gain more knowledge, it drops down because you realize how little you really know about that subject.
Yeah.
These people are at that peak of complex. They don't understand how people feel about pricing in video games and what their actual opinion is. They just look at revenue numbers and profit and stuff kind of coming out. So they ask questions based upon that. Justin did not bring up that subject. It's that investment analyst did during the quarter 3 earning. And I think he put him down a little bit gently about what kind of stupid question he was asking.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where once the little bit of backlash kind of came out with what he initially said, and then he kind of changed his stance a little bit and was talking more about that, video games has a good value per entertainment. That is a better question to ask, and a better way, in my opinion, to move forward. Video games should always have a good entertainment per value.
And on that end, I'll say this: quality is not the same as quantity. What if your game is $70 worth, but it's so boring that you never even finish the game for more than 2 or 3 hours? Now, suddenly, don't you think you only should pay for those 2 or 3 hours that you played?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the other thing is what if you have such a large game where it takes you a ton of time, and then you're spending $200 to fucking play a video game?
Yeah.
I mean, now I say that, and of course, people spend that crap all the time on mobile gaming and like that, but I feel like the average person is not going to want to fucking do that, and they shouldn't have to.
I'm trying to think of how many hours I put on F1 2020. It's about 1,000 hours. I would have to pay $1,000 for that game. I should have just bought a car.
Dude, yeah. I mean, back in the day when Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 came out, right? Came out on the OG Xbox. I played that game so fucking much, Ari. I can't even fucking tell you, dude. I believe my save files said that it changed from time to 1 year played on one of my save files. So, I mean, you look at that and you think of how much that would cost if they were to do some sort of price per entertainment value like that. Who knows how much you could, I'd be charged for that, dude. But I'll tell you this: I enjoyed every fucking minute that I played that.
Absolutely. I mean, when we get into a game that has a good quality, man, we'll end up kind of spending almost a lifetime kind of worth of our time in it. When we were young, and even now a little bit today. But yeah, if you start charging us by the hour of our favorite games, man, I can't imagine I would have money to buy a console.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's already hard enough to live with the way inflation is and everything like that. So it's and they already raised, and I know that this doesn't really pertain to you as much because you play mostly on PC, but PlayStation just upped their subscription. So it's no longer just, I think it used to be $60 a year or something like that. It's now $80 a year or higher. I can't even remember, but it just, everything is going up. So it's I'm trying to save as much money as I can. So it's I'm going to have to pick and choose.
Moving on, why don't we do the Ubisoft stuff first, and then I'll go towards the other news.
The Ubisoft stuff. What was the Ubisoft stuff?
So I remember you mentioned there was a small glitch in the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Odyssey pretty recently, and I think there are a couple of videos up of people posting what it looked like. Basically, while in the middle of a gameplay, you have an ad that comes out interrupting the overall gameplay.
Yeah, I think that videos were showing them pausing the screen to look at their map, and an ad banner popped up. And for Mirage, and I believe they were playing Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is what they were playing.
This is weird. I thought it was an ad banner, but it was actually almost a full screen kind of block, right?
Yeah. It was literally the whole screen. And I mean, we've seen something similar to that with Xbox on the home screen with Call of Duty. As soon as you boot it up, there's a huge Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 banner that pops up, and you have to exit out of it in order to continue. Complete.
Well, to be fair to the Ubisoft side, per their account, it was a technical error. Because I remember Ubisoft, at least in Assassin's Creed, when you try to play the game on the title menu screen, they do have ads on that one. And they're saying some code bugging or something like that caused that ad to pop up inside the gameplay itself. But you could say that, but yeah, it could also be a test case to see what kind of reaction you're gauging out of an advertisement.
Exactly. It starts off, oh, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to have that ad pop up in the middle of your gameplay. I feel like it's a slippery slope, man. It starts off with this and then now you're getting ads every 10 minutes when you're playing a video game, dude. At that point, what do? You just stop playing video games.
Yeah, this could be the horse armor advertisement from.
Yeah, it's I mean, and
A Trojan horse armor too.
the thing too, I feel like with this Ubisoft thing is they waited until the backlash came out before they responded, right? I feel like someone would have known, oh, we accidentally popped an ad up in the middle of gameplay. You know what I mean? I feel like with as many people that they have underneath their belt, that someone would have caught that beforehand.
Yeah, but we'll see. You know, we live long enough lives to see our favorite things get,
Demolished.
completely appeased, etc. So we'll see about this, right, Ian? We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll live long enough to see what they turn this into, and then I'll remember. Just like you remember that horse armor from Morrowind, I'll remember this.
Yeah,
And I have a recording of this too now.
Yeah.
Remember. Right. With that being said, let's move on to a couple of news that I thought was kind of interesting. So recently, the LA Times released a kind of a overlook on the video game industry, especially the layoffs that are happening all across, multiple studios. Now they're like, from Electronic Arts to Ubisoft to a lot of other companies like Embracer Group and et cetera. They're laying off quite a bit of developers right before the holiday season starts. When the whole pandemic happened and more people were playing video games, I thought them gaining more opportunity to kind of sell their product, and they were able to do it. But now suddenly people are losing their interest and et cetera. So they might be starting to lose their developers because they don't need as much.
I don't even think, honestly, though, it's a matter of people losing their interest, man. I think it's everything just costs so much. We don't have the free time that we used to have anymore. You know what I mean? Like you said, the pandemic hit. A lot of people kind of got laid off. A lot of people told to stay at home. So what do? You boot up your console, you start playing some video games. Well, what does that do? That just shows that a lot of people are buying video games. And what does it do? It incentivizes them to go and hire a bunch of people and inflate themselves way bigger than they should be. And then when things start to slow down, you see this kind of thing where people get laid off and stuff like that. It is super unfortunate that it's happening around this time. I feel like the studios would have known and seen it coming.
Yeah, but look at who are the people losing the highest amount of developers and laying them off, right? You got Electronic Arts losing about 775 developers. You got Epic Games losing about 830 developers. And you have the Embracer Group that just laid off, let me check, about 900 developers. Now, Embracer Group is a little bit interesting one because they're basically the people who are going around and buying some major IPs like Crystal Dynamics. So they were buying Deus Ex, they're buying Tomb Raider, they're buying Thief as well. Now they were going around shopping for these big IPs, and now suddenly they're laying off 900 people. It's like them going out to buy a Ferrari while they can't even pay the electric bill or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they bought up all those IPs, and now unfortunately those IPs are going to sit too.
Exactly. So we're not going to be able to see any Deus Ex anyway. We're not seeing any Thief. But like Tomb Raider, you'd assume you'd see more.
Yeah, for real. I mean, the three that you listed, those are really good IPs. I mean, the last Thief wasn't that great, but the second one I remember being on PC was really good. Tomb Raider, they're doing a remaster release, I believe. Coming up sometime soon. So that's Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, I believe, that are going to be remastered here, coming out. I don't know when, but Deus Ex there, however the hell you want to pronounce it. I mean, that's another good one too. They had one that was on the Xbox that was really good. And of course, the original for the PC was decent too. I mean, honestly, Embracer, in my opinion, kind of came out of nowhere and just started grabbing.
Yeah, look at this. As of September 2023, Embracer Group has 129 internal game development studios and is engaging more than 15,000 employees and contracted employees in more than 40 countries. Some of these includes THQ Nordic, Deca Games, PlayOn, Saber Interactive. Just like some of these studios are massive ones too. It's like
huge. I mean, it's crazy, and it's like, where the did they get the money to buy that shit too?
It's usually either like some Middle Eastern countries trying to put up a lot of money in that kind of portfolio. So you just go around buying as much as you can. That's usually what happens. Is a lot of startup is like, they suddenly have like a huge influx of like some Middle Eastern countries, like sovereign funds put a huge amount of money into like, say, SoftBank, and they start buying Uber. But Maybe what happened was that maybe there's some deal they might have failed at the last moment, and now they have to lay off a lot of people too.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
thought the money was coming in, but maybe it didn't.
yeah, I mean, it's highly possible, but I think it's definitely just a trend with the tech industry in general, with just the pandemic slowing down, people going back
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah, that's a good observation, man. I think you're right. A lot of companies that made a lot of money during the pandemic, like you have your Zoom, you got your Peloton, all those companies were making a lot of money. And after pandemic was over, it was like their stock kind of came tumbling down as well.
Yeah.
And they were in a lot of trouble. But yeah, that's like the weird kind of news. But I'd say that covers up all the news I want to talk about. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, that's good with me, man. I mean, that's definitely a good chunk of stuff that happened in the past, couple weeks. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Sounds good. All right, moving on to the next segment.
So Ari, I've kind of went back in time a little bit, and I started getting back into Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. I know I told you to pick it up and play it. Give me some thoughts on it. What'd you think?
It was overall a really good game. It was nice to peel back into the time and see that era of when RPG games were being formed in a more basic kind of structure, like the modern RPG we're playing today.
Mm.
And it was kind of nice to see some of what would be considered like a novel and new ideas, but we've seen that in many gameplays today. So it was overall a very good experience.
Yeah. I absolutely adore this game. Every once in a while, I always love to go back and play it. One of the reasons I told you to is, of course, we got Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out next year. I believe there was a leaked release date of March 22nd, somewhere around there. But this one, of course, it's not just Dragon's Dogma, it's Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, which is the DLC that it came with, which goes to Bitter Black Isle. Did you ever get a chance to get to Bitter Black Isle?
I actually went ahead and explored the Bitter Black Isle a little bit, but my level was not ready to do so, right? So
what level were you?
I was around level 14 or 15.
Jesus Christ, are you serious?
Yeah. So I got pretty much hammered immediately after I got it. I was able to kill a couple of goblins and stuff, but it was not worth for me to stick around. I doubled back. We'll talk about it later on. I have one kind of a complaint about this game.
Yeah.
And Bitter Black Isle is one of the things that highlighted that particular problem. But before kind of going into it, and this game has been about, how long has it been? 8 years now?
Yeah, something. I don't even know exactly. I'd have to look it up when it released. I know it came out on the original Xbox 360 and PS3 is when it first came out. I don't remember when Bitter Black Isle came out for it.
Yeah. So just wanted to kind of say, a lot of people might not have this game in their refreshed memory yet, but overall, Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, according to, this is the
2012, by the way, 2012.
Yeah. 2012, yeah, almost 10 years, already 12 years now.
Yeah.
So it came out during the Skyrim, right? Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I'm going to read a quick summary from the chat GPT of what it thinks Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is. And I think it's got it pretty much. So it says, it's a role-playing game that follows the story of Arisen, a person whose heart has been stolen by a dragon and who must defeat that dragon. The game starts with Arisen's village in Casardis being attacked by a massive dragon. After confronting the dragon known as Grigory rips the heart from Arisen and devours it. However, instead of killing the Arisen, this cursed the Arisen with supernatural abilities and tasked them to seek out and kill Grigory. That's the overall kind of story, and it starts with how you would assume a lot of modern-day RPG starts, with your unnamed protagonist being pulled out of their ordinary life, now have to go and completely be part of everything that's going to happen in that world. Very, traditional RPG that we see being reflected in other newer RPGs like Starfield itself. So it's kind of weird to see that same reflection, and made me kind of question that we have not progressed a lot from that storyline. But when I was playing it, it didn't feel anything of a problematic on my end from the story perspective. It was a good refresher to me. It was entertaining to get into the world. And I think this game does a really good job of pulling you into the story in the first few moments. You start underneath a cave, you fight a chimera, And then you start near the village after you create a character, and then you start the main boss, Grigori, which was a really good way to kind of get us into the story and everything else. So I really like that part about this game.
Yeah, it definitely draws you in within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, and seeing that Chimera, that first real world boss, it sets. And you think about the games that were out around that time as well. Like it really stood out on its own. It's a real shame that this game flew under the radar, in my opinion. I'm glad more people have been seeing it and been picking it up because it feels so good to play even now in 2023. The controls, it's fairly easy to get used to. It's very well polished game. It just feels really good climbing the backs of the monsters and stuff because you can climb them. Something you can't do in Dark Souls, the magic and stuff. Now, of course, like the graphics are a little bit dated, but they're not too bad. And some of the graphics, in my opinion, are even better. Especially, I don't know if you saw this much, but when you catch, like, for instance, the ogres on fire or just like the chimeras on fire, where you catch something on fire, like it actually lights pieces of them on fire. And in my opinion, I think it just looks well done, especially for the time that it came out at.
I did not notice that, but I do like their motion graphics, the goblins or hobgoblins catching on fire. It's, I think, one of the funniest thing I've ever seen, to be really honest. But yeah, no, overall, the graphics, you get used to it pretty quickly. Like, you really kind of like forget that this is about, 12-year-old game. And it's not really a big hurdle to kind of get used to as well. But like one of the things is like, you'll notice it on the facial animation and stuff like that. Of course, it's not going to have a top notch or anything. But
yeah,
usually because the rest of the graphics are a little bit older, that having a lack of facial animation doesn't really pull you out. Unlike, you're watching a modern RPG where suddenly the facial animation kind of distracts you a little bit.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, it doesn't happen. Like graphics, it integrates with the story and gameplay pretty good, so you don't have to worry about it pulling you out or the story itself.
Yeah. The one thing I will say with this game is definitely the beginning is probably one of the hardest parts until you start getting the port crystals. I know you were having a little bit of issue with that too, kind of getting around.
Yeah. That was like, I've started to do this one mission where you go and talk to the captain of the hunt, and then he starts sending you around the world, and every one of these missions has a port crystal somewhere, so I'm gathering them a little bit. Yeah, before that one, you could only travel to the Grand Soren area, one of the major cities, and Kasardis, your hometown. Those were the only a few areas that you could fast travel to, basically. And there are no mounts in this game, so you have to run through it while your stamina is being drained. And you run into these annoying wolves and goblins all the time, which slows down your gameplay a little bit whenever you're just trying to get to the place immediately.
Yeah, it's definitely a trek. But so the trick is, right? So in like Castardis or whatever, your starting hometown, you can actually go into the well. And if you go through the well, it'll put you on the other side of the encampment. So there's little shortcuts like that are in this game that you have to kind of figure out or look it up online on the wiki or something like that. Another one, Grand Soren to the Shadow Fort, there you pass through the quarry. Once you clear the quarry out, and it cuts down the time tremendously.
Wait.
Yeah, there's shortcuts. So there's shortcuts in the game that you can take. And then the other thing too is you get the port crystals that you can put down. So what I do is I strategically put them down, right? I put one down at the Grand Wall encampment in the Barda Crags. I put one up there because you usually have a couple of escort quests. So what you do is you put the port crystal down where the escort quest finishes, and then you could just teleport there instantly with your escort, and you get them there safely, and the quest is over in a snap. And it's super easy. So you get like 6 of them, and so I just strategically put them in places on the map so then I can just warp to wherever I need to go to.
Shortcuts?
Yeah.
Dude, like, I mean,
the game doesn't tell you that. This game does not handhold you for sure. Like, you have to pay attention to shit.
Yeah, but like, I went through that well. I did the mission, killed a couple of those lizard with the sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through it and I got out to the other side of the encampment, but I still did not register that as a shortcut.
Yeah.
Because like I went through, oh man, okay, that kind of helps a little bit. But
Yeah.
I already have a couple of these port crystals now, and I'm putting them strategically too. I'm putting them in the northernmost part or the southernmost part or in the middle
Yeah.
to kind of like travel a little bit. But yeah.
So what I usually do is I put them in places that you go to a lot. So Bloodwater Beach, I believe, is one. You have a couple of escort quests that go there a lot. Shadow Fort is another one that I put one down because you have escort quests that go there. Plus, there's a drake that spawns nearby that you can farm every 7 days or something. So it makes it quick to get to him. Barda Crags is another one because that's also where you get some of the best endgame armor before you give the gold idol to the shopkeep in Grand Soren. And then Hill Figure Knoll, I usually pop one around there. And then Blue Moon Tower, I usually put one there. Then also those port crystals. So when you beat the game and you go into New Game Plus, those port crystals stay exactly where they are and you get more port crystals.
From the same kind of missions, and you can just put them wherever. I see.
Yep. So it makes it a little bit easier on subsequent playthroughs.
No, I mean, you're right. This game has a lot to offer if you're willing to discover through it. If you're trying to brute force play through it, it can be a little bit impatient, but
yeah, you will have a bad time.
Exactly. What do you think about the gameplay mechanics, like, the fighting and stuff?
I mean, I enjoy it. I like it a lot. It's kind of it's Dark Souls / like Devil May Cry. You could kind of akin it to that. It's a action RPG, so there's a lot of stamina management. And the classes are fun to play. I mean, I enjoy playing every class. This last playthrough, I was doing Magic Archer. Decimating everything with it. Just absolutely decimating with the Magic Archer. It was so fun.
What was your first one that you played with?
So when I first played the game way back in the day, I went through as a warrior. So two-handed, big sword, just chopping everything in my path. And that was a lot of fun to play with as well. The only problem is when you start getting into that Bitter Black Isle, that DLC stuff, as you saw, it is tough. Recommended level, I believe, is 60 minimum.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's why I laugh, because it is end game stuff. Bitter Black Isle is. So, and the thing is the DLC is meant to be played through twice. You have post Damien and pre Damien spoilers. That's who the last boss is. So you beat him once, and then you go through the whole DLC again, and then you beat him a second time. And he is not easy. He is very tough. You have to make sure you have a lot of management items with you, health, stamina, all that stuff. I did beat him, though, on this Magic Archer playthrough.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I chose Strider, the first one that I played with. I'm enjoying the gameplay with Strider. I can see, from the combat, it has a little bit of a proto Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey fighting mechanic, where you kind of add a lot more fighting moves by clicking the right button or the left button.
Yeah,
that was one that has always been my favorite combat method, because you can add so much more moves through it. So it's kind of nice. This early kind of version of it.
Yeah. Also, so you have the triggers which give you your moves and stuff, but then you have your basic attack, right? So your basic attack has differences depending on the timing of the button presses and the class, of course. So your Strider, if you just spam square, for instance, if that's your basic attack and you just spam it, you do one set of moves. But if you do square, square, pause, square, 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 you get a different set of moves as well.
Yeah. I think you can use your core augments to kind of add a little bit more
flair to it.
Attacks.
Yeah,
exactly. I like the overall Strider's moves. I usually have two pawns. My main pawn is a sorcerer, and another pawn is mage, and they usually provide me with either my thunder boon or fire boon or freeze boon, so that my weapon has kind of a magic element to it, even though I'm not a mage myself. And I keep one heavy warrior around whenever I'm in the rift. The interesting part is I didn't realize until quite deep into the gameplay that my non-main pawn, it does not level up.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until I was level 20, and my guy was just level 6 Nook, the first guy you meet on the Casardes.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, are you just lazy or something? What's happening here? So I went back to the rift, and then I didn't want to part from him because I was giving this pawn a couple of my armor and stuff, thinking like he was leveling up as well, and just trying to do it. I didn't realize I was going to lose it permanently when I tried to switch it. So I was like, this is. I should have read that menu where it says, "Do you want to permanently gift this pawn?"
Your armor
no.
pieces. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to really pay attention. It doesn't do a lot of hand holding that you see nowadays. You have to kind of just figure it out and stuff. Yeah, the pawns, other than your main pawn that you get, don't level with you, and it's always recommended to swap them out like every 5 levels or something like that. I usually go, I think, like every 10.
Yeah, you can get like a higher level pawn if you're willing to spend your RC points on as well, right? So you can get a higher level. If I try to right now get a 100 level pawn, I have to spend about 1 million RC points to get that.
Yeah, so the Rift Crystal points you can always pay for pawns that are higher level than you. Same level or below are free. But so it's best to just do same level and below, though, because when you buy those higher level pawns, and especially when you go to Beer Black Isle, it is very easy to die and lose those pawns. So you just wasted those Rift Crystals.
One thing I did like about the companions and the pawns is that they are much more helpful than a lot of modern RPG companions because they comment on your mission a little bit. Like, it's not like, completely telling you what to do, but if I'm on a mission to kind of find a couple of damn flowers or like plants or something, is like, oh, this kind of flowers, they grow near the tree. And then he also says like, oh, this kind of flowers might grow up, during the night. So we might have to wait until night or something. I was like, oh, yeah, it's in the name, Moon Glow. I guess that makes sense. I'll wait for the night. But like the companions are a lot more helpful. And sometimes the companions, if you're lost in an area, so like I was lost near the Witchwood the first time, near the fog, my companion just found a way to get closer towards the witch hut. And then I was not even looking at the time. So I just followed my companion and he took me through tree bridge so that I could get to the witch's wood much more easy because like I was kind of stuck, kind of rotating around the same kind of area.
Yeah,
so that was like a really cool one too.
Nightmare, dude.
I didn't realize my pawn could help me with that until they decided to help me out.
Yeah,
which is so much better than a lot of companions. Like in Starfield, you have companions, but all they do is they give you branch, not really as helpful as these pawns that were from like a decade ago.
Yeah, the companions you get nowadays are pretty much always just pack mules, and that's it. But yeah, the pawns themselves, you can see where like Capcom, they really took care in making this game, and it's a cut above the rest, if you ask me. Like you said, the pawns have deep knowledge. That's the thing too, is like when you get these pawns and you bring them on missions and stuff like that, they learn what to do on those missions and they can bring it back to whoever made them and stuff. Or if someone else rents them out, they know the knowledge then to help them or someone else with that quest.
Yeah. So those are the good things about the games, right? I mean, we both enjoyed it and I definitely want to keep on playing a little bit more. Hopefully I can finish this game pretty soon as well. So overall, a really good recommendation on your end, man. I really appreciate going back and playing this game.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. And I'm glad the next one, I don't play a game and then suddenly it's like 12 years later when this game's going to come out. It's the fact that I just played it now and the game's going to come out pretty soon. So
yeah, a couple months. Yeah, it's like one to look forward to.
I may not know the pain that you might have gone through waiting for a game cycle 10 to 12 years. It's kind of like that situation where people were watching Game of Thrones, and I've been watching Game of Thrones since 2011, and my friend just starts watching Game of Thrones before the final season airs, and I'm like, that's 10 years worth of television. You're not allowed to enjoy like that, man. You did
fucking cheating.
Nothing like that. Exactly. So I'm glad like that, and when you also recommended other games as well, like, Armored Core and stuff like that. So that was a really good recommendation on your end. I'm going to make a list of like, what are the things you've recommended that have worked out and what are the things that have not. So we'll do a tally one day.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've played plenty of games.
There are a couple of complaints from me on this game, right? No game is perfect again.
Oh, yeah.
But, talking back, like having to, if you're just trying to go through one gameplay story focused, it's quite a bit of a slog because yes, you have to pay very good attention to everything. It's not going to handhold you. And the traversing options are really hard to get used to. It's not as convenient as a lot of RPGs have learned to do in the past 12 years, like getting the fast travel points and fast travel sections. So you have to find these port crystals. You have to be able to decide where you want to put it, like, and then how you want to travel and how you want to gather the port crystal back again. It could really affect your gameplay when you're trying to just go through the story and you're just going to have to traverse through these wildlands where you keep running into these damn wolves, which are just absolutely
They're everywhere.
annoying. They're everywhere. Like in the one house, and it calls the other ones too, I think.
Yep.
Like it's just like
It's a slog, man. Yeah.
I just killed your whole family. How are you? Like, how do you have so many more?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of pre-planning that goes with this game. Or at least it makes your gameplay easier for sure. When you go in blind, and that's honestly, that's a big gripe of mine too, is someone going in blind, your quest, you can actually fail your quests and you can completely miss quests too and not even know it. There's a particular quest that I'm always nervous about doing. It's in Grand Soren, when you finally get there. I think it's after the worm hunt quests that you were doing. There's a little girl that you escort, and you have to do it perfectly to get the best reward. The best reward is a gold idol, which then you can gift to a shopkeeper, and they can expand their inventory. You could also make a forgery of it and get like a 10% discount on items and stuff like that. So it's a pretty important item. And the fact that you have to do this quest so well, it always makes me nervous. I have not failed that quest once, though, but I have failed plenty of other quests.
Well, Ian, I would not have failed that quest if you just didn't tell me it exists. Now I have to actually fail this quest because, oh God, like I did finish up that one mission where I have to raise craftsman's son from the dead, and I think it's kind of following that mission and kind of area. So yeah, I'll look forward to it. It's just,
It's my biggest gripe is just like, it's really easy to fail quests in this game. And I mean, I'm not a perfectionist by any means, but of course, like I want to do as much content as possible. So being able to fail a quest so easily like that, or even just completely missing a quest, this game is a bitch sometimes, man. It really is, but it is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I love it, and I'm glad you liked it too.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Kingdom Come Deliverance too.
Yeah,
you could just run out of time and then not be able to do the quest. But in that one, it's obvious if the quest has started. So it's quite obvious if a quest is like already started and then you have to do it. You miss it by not doing the quest on time. You know the quest is on. You can still do a lot of mission. But yeah, this one's a little bit. You're right. No hand holding. You have to kind of figure it out as you're playing through. Be able to explore
or have the wiki pulled up while you play.
You laugh, but a lot of my recent gameplays has been like that. Like I was playing Baldur's Gate 3. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I mean,
that thing is right now. Yeah.
When you want to get all the content, sometimes it's necessary. And I mean, no one should shame anyone for having a walkthrough pulled up if it's how they play the game and stuff. Because I mean, that's the thing about video games is you enjoy it how you enjoy it, right?
Exactly. No shame. There are other things I do that are more shameful.
Exactly.
Video game than not this one. But yeah, and I guess another quick complaint, not even a big one, but it's weird that I run into, because there's no level scaling in this game, it's weird sometimes when I run into certain enemies that are way out of my league, right? So in some cases, that's okay. But in some cases, it's kind of takes away from the gameplay. And I know that I'm supposed to run away from these stronger enemies, but it's kind of hard to tell somebody to not fight a boss, right? That's a weird thing to ask. So when I was doing the Shadow Fort area, I ran into that Drake you were mentioning a little bit while ago. And that Drake is way too high of a level for me right now to fight. I'm like level 22, 23 right now.
Yeah, he will stomp you every time.
Exactly. So like I did manage to hit the arrow to his heart, but it doesn't really act. I was able to climb him. I'm trying to strike him by climbing, but it doesn't work anything. It's not reducing any hit points at all. So I ran away, but I spent quite a bit of time thinking I could still defeat him and save the game and then just do it again. I didn't realize I have to run away in that kind of situation in order to continue the gameplay.
So it seems like how they did this game is there's certain monsters that are designed for certain levels, right? So your Cyclopses, for instance, are good from level 1 to like level 20 or something like that, right? Then from like around level 20 or maybe 15, you start dabbling in the Chimeras, right? Then you hit level 20 something, you start dealing with the ogres. So there kind of is a scaling as far as like what monsters you should be fighting at what level and stuff, but it doesn't tell you that at all. It's just something, again, you have to just figure out.
That was the weird part, because like right now when I'm playing the Shadow Fort section, the Cyclops are pretty easy to handle, but when I go and when I ran into the Drake right after I got out of the Shadow Fort and I'm getting attacked by a Drake, I was like, wait, is this a dragon? Is this the dragon that I'm supposed to fight at the end of the game or something? And it's like, for some reason I was thinking like, oh, it's the same dragon, right? Because it looks like a dragon, talks like a dragon, it fires like a dragon. I thought it was a dragon, but no, it's just some lame-ass Drake that I need to kind of defeat, but I could not. And then I just ran away from it. And you never know when you run into it. Like, I didn't go to its lair. I just ran into that thing.
Yeah, Devil Fire Grove there.
Exactly.
It has a wandering area and stuff like that. A lot of the enemies are like that. Just wait until you fight the Gore Chimeras.
Oh, kind of. It's weird. Like when the Bitter Black Isle came up, I ran to death.
Oh yeah, that's another fun one right there.
Yeah,
and I hate
I'm looking at those dots that they have. The dots.
Yeah, they have the health bars.
Oh, I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, wait, I thought they only were supposed to have like 2 or 3. This guy has 7 or 8. But the weird part is the death just disappeared afterwards on that area, and then.
So your first encounter with death, that's what happens. Is it just it shows you that he's there, right? I think even your second encounter with him, like you can potentially beat and kill him. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And I'll tell you what, for a magic archer, it is very difficult. He is the one beast that I can't fight really as a magic archer.
Yeah, there was some, for example, if you're a Strider 2 archer and sneak kind of like double daggers, you're almost impossible to fight against somebody who's a warrior soldier, someone with a heavy weapon, especially someone who has a shield. It's almost really hard to fight, even if they're around your level, even if they're goblin, like they keep blocking your attack most of the time. Later on, I was able to level up to get a skill called Skull Splitter or Helm Splitter. And that one usually kind of goes past through their armor and be able to hurt them. But I was stuck with one Cyclops and some couple of these undead army, and one of the undead had this giant medieval big ass armor with like a big sword and a shield. And I'm barely making a dent on this guy, but I had to kill the Cyclops because it was one of the side missions I had to do.
Yeah.
Like killing 3 Cyclops or something. So this guy's like bothering me while I'm trying to kill the Cyclops and he's just massacring me. And then I just like kind of played again and again. Later on, the Cyclops himself stomped this guy down a little bit to help me out. I think he was defeated by Cyclops stomping and then be able to finish that mission. But yeah, it doesn't really help you with, I like the fact that there is no level scaling, but you could run into any kind of these big enemies at any moment and not even know that it's not really your time to shine against these enemies.
Yeah, it really puts you in your place. And I enjoy that a lot. It's like wandering onto the big boy playground. You're going to get your ass handed to you. You either try to persevere and fight through it, or you just come back after you leveled up a bit and got some better skills.
Yeah. I mean, overall, a good experience on my end. Last one I'll say is the voiceover acting on that end. The main characters, they definitely are talented voiceover actors. The side NPCs, you can tell some developers just kind of sat through their late night recording these dialogues. It's like night and day difference between a good voiceover quality on that game with the main character versus like a side NPC.
Yeah.
It's not really a big deal, but yeah.
Again, 12-year-old game or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of to be expected.
I kind of miss those days, to be honest.
Yeah.
This kind of really amateur voiceover acting, which is what we're doing in a way, in our own way right now too. So
yeah. But yeah, I can't wait for the second one, honestly. From what I've seen, I've tried to kind of stay as spoiler free as I can, but from what I've seen that they're doing with it, it looks really good. And it's up there on my list of games I want to get next year. Just a couple months away. It's not very far off. I'm sure the Game Awards next month we'll probably see like an actual release date. The leaked one was from the PEGI website, which of course they do the overseas like EU ESRB rating. They accidentally leaked it on their website. After they had displayed it, they pulled it, but not before everyone saw that was the release date.
Yeah. We'll see when it comes out. Yeah. I can't, like, to be honest, this will be something that I'm now looking forward to play. I didn't even know before last week or like a week before when you recommended it about this game. I mean, I knew this game existed, but never really had an interest to play an old game. But I'm glad I decided to take your recommendation. So,
yeah,
thanks.
Really flew under the radar, and I know a lot of people have been picking it up because of the second one. And from what I've seen, people have been enjoying it. So if you haven't got it, go out there. Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen. It's on sale. You can get it mad cheap right now, like on any system. Don't get it on the Switch though. Do yourself a favor. Get it at least on a PS4 or like an Xbox One or something. To skip the Switch.
Yeah, Switch is for Nintendo. Keep it that way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, that's good. All right, moving on. Well, Ian, I think we had a pretty decent amount of content. We've had pretty decent amount of things to talk about for our first episode. And I really want to, again, thank you for, joining me on this end and doing this together. There's no other person, in my honest opinion, I talk about video games with than you. And from our last whole years of conversation that it is absolutely true.
Oh, yeah, man. I love doing it, man. It's, video games is like, I eat, sleep, and breathe that man. So I always enjoy talking about it, and I love talking to you about it. I always like hearing your insight and, seeing your perspective on how things are.
Well, I'm just trying to use you for your recommendations now. So, so that's the extent of our friendship on that. And I'm just going to keep on extracting recommendations. With recommendations being talked about, Ian, what are some of the things that we should be looking forward to in the upcoming weeks?
So we got the Game Awards next month, which we'll see, I think, a lot of trailers. We'll see a lot of good trailers. I know there's been some leaks of possibly Death Stranding 2, seeing a trailer of that, which we know that's Hideo Kojima's newest baby there. And then we also will...
It's an older baby now, right?
Yeah, older baby now, yeah. Yeah. So we'll see probably that. We'll probably see possibly some Metal Gear Solid Delta, I think it's called, which is, of course, the Snake Eater remaster. Maybe even some Dragon Dogma 2. I think there'll be a lot of good things there, a lot of good trailers coming up. So,
yeah, and we'll discuss, as we kind of that episode comes out, not episode, but when that Game Award is airing, we'll talk about it when we get a chance to. It'll be pretty kind of nice to kind of look forward to it and have that discussion as well. So yeah, with that being said, I think we have our first episode pretty much wrapped up. Overall, I'm having a pretty good experience. We managed to do it pretty succinctly and pretty confidently. Hopefully when I'm editing, it sounds pretty good and nothing has been lost to our couple of shenanigans that has happened today. But yeah, if you're listening to us, if you are listening, well, thank you very much.
Yes, we do appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. I mean, this is the first time we're doing it. There's going to be some rough edges to it, and hopefully we want to do it. Even if nobody's listening, I just enjoy talking to my friend Ian here, and talking about video games is just a fun thing to do. And if you'd like to reach to us, of course, you can always email us at highpingbastards@gmail.com. Again, that's highpingbastards@gmail.com. Basically, the name of our podcast at gmail.com. So yeah, feel free to, continue listening to us as we keep on trying to crank this pod and add more episodes to it.
Definitely. And I know at some point, I'll try and get back on Twitch and do some streaming myself. And of course, whenever that does happen, I'll let y'all know here what my Twitch handle is and everything like that. But yeah, other than that, Ari, it's been good talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it as well. Sorry for interruption. We need to I wish it is those out, man. We'll is those out.
That'll happen, man.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.